Both Master of Darkness and Ninja Gaiden were developed by SIMS, which was a joint venture between Sega and the Sanritsu Denki Company, founded in 1991. They've developed many games for Sega in the past, including one of my favourites, Bank Panic, but this was to be a new development team incorporating members from each of the companies. They received their independence from Sega back in 2004 and have currently been working solely on fishing titles for the PSP, Vita and 3DS. One of their first projects was Putt and Putter for the Master System and Game Gear, a great little crazy golf game that I spent many hours on as a child, though it really holds nothing next to these two following titles. Master of Darkness sees you take the role of Dr. Social, a man convinced that there is something supernatural behind all of the murders being committed night after night on the streets of London. All of the murders seem to have one thing in common: all the victims are completely drained of blood. Calling upon the power of the Ouija board, Dr. Social learns from the spirits beyond that there are horrible events taking place at the Thames River. This is where your story starts, and as you progress, so the story unfolds. There are only really 4 levels in the game: Thames River, the House of Wax Dolls, the Laboratory, Epitaph, and In the Wake of Dracula, which is based in Dracula's castle. Each of these are broken up into 3 stages, some of which change the surroundings within the level to try and add more variety, and I think it breaks it up well. I never found myself being bored by my surroundings. Thames River will have you riding boats across the water, avoiding dark shady men, repelling wild dog attacks, and have you jumping around like a madman trying to avoid bats. The House of Wax has mannequins that come to life as soon as your back is turned, and throws possessed furniture and portraits at you. Epitaph will raise the walking dead to slow your progress, and conjure skeletal hordes of fallen warriors. All of these enemies are thrown together in the final level, with a few extras and a mind-boggling maze to sweeten the deal. And given that you have a time in which to complete the level, it can be pretty tricky if you don't know where to go. Most of these enemies are fairly generic, to be honest. There are countless games with bats, dogs, dark figures, ghosts and zombies, but they all fit into this game though, as it's your typical horror setting, so I don't think it's a bad thing that they're here. Again, I will state that Master of Darkness is just a Castlevania clone, but it does have a few minor differences. For example, your primary weapon can change. Initially you'll start off with a dagger, but you can also pick up sabers, stakes and axes. And although the axe deals the most damage, I actually prefer the stake myself. So it does a little less damage, but it has much greater range than the axe. Just like Castlevania, Master of Darkness has secondary weapons too. These include the pistol, the bomb, boomerang, and a projectile. The manual doesn't state what the projectile is, but I'm guessing it's some sharp stake sort of thing. All of these items, as well as health and point bonuses, can be found in the hovering masks throughout the levels. These sort of play the role of the candles in Castlevania that you usually find the hearts in. I think the biggest difference between Castlevania and Master of Darkness though, and if you haven't seen it already, is that you can actually jump off those bloody stairs. Master of Darkness has a great visual and graphic style. It's very smooth with a very high polish, and it has very minimal sprite flickering or slowdown. It looks absolutely fantastic for an 8-bit game. The flowing water, the trees blowing in the wind, the scrolling clouds, and the burning torches all add up for a very nice looking game. The animations of the protagonist and the enemies aren't anything spectacular, but they serve their purposes well. There is some really great music in this game, especially for the Master System. Again, this shows what the console is really capable of in the right hands. It's very atmospheric at times, with it being very spooky and eerie, but there's also some upbeat tracks on there, which are verging on metal riffs with solo sections to accompany it, which is pretty cool. They're only about 2.5 minutes long, which can cause them to repeat a lot, but when they're as good as this, I don't really see any problem with that. There's not really too much to be said about the sound effects. They're nothing spectacular, but they all fit the actions, whether it's picking up items or destroying foes, and they never seem out of place. I think about the only noise I don't like is that siren from level 2. Man, it just drives me nuts. I'd highly recommend this game to anyone with a Master System looking for their Castlevania fix, or anyone just looking for some platforming action. The game is fairly common on eBay, and generally sells for a good price, though if you're trying to find the Game Gear version, I think you might have a little bit more trouble, or end up paying a little bit more money. I've never actually seen one in the wild myself. But if I did have to criticise this game in any fashion, I think it would be the difficulty level. It's actually just a little bit too easy, especially if you're used to the old Castlevania games on the NES. After a couple of playthroughs, I was actually able to complete the game without dying once, but don't let that put you off. The game looks great, sounds great, it's a hell of a lot of fun, and will give you an experience that you'll be coming back again and again for. As all of you familiar with the Ninja Gaiden series are aware, you take the role of a ninja of the Dragon Clan, Ryo Hayabusa. After performing his duties in the name of the clan, he returns back home to the Dragon Village, only to find that everyone there has been massacred. Only one person has survived, though he's been mortally wounded in his seconds from death. With his dying words he informs Ryo that the sacred Bushido scroll, a scroll of great ninja power, has been stolen by the men that destroyed the town. Ryo does not take this lightly and swears vengeance for his clan and to reclaim the scroll from their evil hands. Ninja Gaiden is spread across 7 levels: Escape in a Forest, Pursuit in Tokyo, Samurai in Kendo, Rescue Geisha, The Land of the Enemy, Raid, and finally the last boss stage, Overcome. The forest will have you swinging through the trees to avoid all the spiked traps laid by the ninja traitors and through the underground caverns. It's not all safe in the trees as they have planted bombs in numerous locations, and you must think quick in order to pass through safely. The streets of Tokyo are full of dangerous criminals, whether they be gangsters, assassins dressed as innocent tourists, or even those goddamn killer crows. Level 3 will have you ascending the ancient architecture in Osaka, trying to avoid the usual familiar foes, samurai, and even some dark ninjas that love nothing more than to hide in the shadows. In order to rescue the geisha, Ryo must climb the dizzying heights of Mount Fuji, taking care not to miss any footings and surely risk a fatal plummet. The land of the enemy is completely covered in snow and ice, which will make this hard even for the most experienced ninja. You will need to cross this frozen lake and work your way through the caverns to reach the castle where the scroll lies. Before you can enter the castle though, you must first work your way through the hot molten lava caverns, which I found a little odd after just being through the sub-zero ice caverns just moments before. Anyways, watch out for rising lava levels, fireballs, and many a creature trying to halt your progress. Once you finally reach the castle, you'll need the reflexes of a cat to get through all the traps and enemies laid out for you. Fans and turbines will constantly be pushing you around, and the classic flying spikes will always keep you on your toes. As you can see, ninja make up the majority of the enemies in Ninja Gaiden, though they do have their own actions and behaviours, which you'll need to remember in order to make any progress. The only enemies I found to be cheap, shall we say, are the birds and the fireballs that follow you in the lava section. Birds gave me such a headache at times, and the fireballs were unfairly placed in my opinion, seeing as one hit can toss you across the lava and cause instant death. Ninja Gaiden has a great visual style. It's bright and colourful, and though I think you can tell it's the same game engine as Master of Darkness, it has a slightly more cartoony and comic style. All the enemies are very well animated, and their actions never seem glitchy or jilted. You may have the odd bit of flicker when there are a lot of sprites on the screen, but that's to be expected with an 8-bit machine. The action never seems to slow down due to it. The range of scenery and backdrops is also very impressive. I don't think you'll ever find yourself getting tired of the same old setting. Much like Master of Darkness, they've also added in things like beautiful flowing water, rustling trees, and bubbling lava. Again, SIMS have done a phenomenal job with the Master System sound chip. Whether it's setting the tone for rushing through the forest high on adrenaline, or building better levels when you think you may be near your journey's end, I think they captured it all wonderfully. The boss music is a personal favourite of mine. Both Master of Darkness and Ninja Gaiden offer a great gaming experience, and both are a hell of a lot of fun. Overall, the games have been finished with a polish that I don't think is often seen on the Master System. It's probably my favourite console to be honest, and there are only a few games I feel really show off what it's capable of. These two titles, along with Wonder Boy 3 and the Mickey Mouse Illusion games, are definitely up there with the greatest, and I highly recommend them for any Master System owner. Pick them up, play the hell out of them, and I promise you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching my quick little overview on these two games. I'm going to end this out with one of my favourite songs from Master of Darkness. Hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Later.